Hello and welcome back to the Low to High podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Ann Evans, and I'm here today with my co-host, John Sullivan. Say hey, John.
What's up?
For today's episode, we have the incredible Rachel Vallarelli. Coach Vallarelli is a college coach, club director, and professional lacrosse player in both the women's field game and the men's box lacrosse game. How are you doing today, Rachel?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
We're doing good now that we've solved our previous Wi-Fi related issues.
Yeah, it just keeps coming back.
It really does. Like, it's been 3 in a row now. I think it's getting into spooky season. There must be a ghost haunting us.
Yeah.
It must be because they all worked perfectly, summer to right before fall started, and then fall hit. Now we're cursed with bad Wi-Fi, which isn't really the worst of curses. But all right, I think we'll go ahead and start with some general questions about your lacrosse background. And first, why don't you give us, a little bit about your whole journey, things, well, not really your whole journey, but things like how you got into the sport and how you started playing, like your youth journey. We'll go with that. What happened there?
Sure. Yeah. So family friend, he played, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Let me give it a shot. I was very, very ultra competitive when I was younger. So I was like, okay, I could be better than you. Meanwhile, I'm like, all right, it's 2 separate sports after I got, used to it and everything. And so I get to my first practice at Holy Child, which small, all girls private school in Rye, New York. And I'm like, we're in shuttle lines. Okay. And I can't catch and throw to save my life. And I'm like, okay. It was probably, I tell everybody it was like probably 10, 15 minutes that I was giving myself. It was probably more like 2. And I just turned and I looked at my coach, and I was like probably kind of like yelling at her, but not in like a mean way. Like, you could go be the goalie. And so that's kind of how it started. And, I was a soccer goalie. So I was like, oh, it can't be all that different. And I came home 7th grade, and I was like, Mom, guess what? And she's like, what? And I was like, I'm the goalie. She's like, you're what? Who do I need to call? Like, this is nope, they're not happening. Like, who do I need to call to change this? And I was like, Mom, no, it's fine. Like, I want to be the goalie. It can't be that much different than soccer. And she's like, I think, she's like, I'm not all that sporty, but I'm pretty sure it's completely
very
Rachel.
different.
But so that's kind of how it started. And then in 9th grade, technically going into 10th grade, I got into club lacrosse and stuff like that. But yeah, it was definitely interesting. And the club stuff kind of happened by happenstance. Somebody I played basketball with was at Holy Child after the lacrosse, like my high school practice. And my mom ran into the other mom and was like, what are you here for? And she's like, oh, lacrosse. And then my mom researched the team and was like, okay, perfect. Here we go. And then all of a sudden a couple weeks later, I was practicing with this team, and I was a goalie for pretty much every age group. So
Was it like a
story.
Was it like a travel club, or was it just like an area club?
Yeah, it was travel. Westchester Elite, they're still around. So it was pretty cool. Yeah, I used to get I was the one goalie probably for 4 or 5. I don't know. The other goalies they had, they just couldn't get to events. So there were times when I got dropped off, like literally middle of a game, a golf cart dropped me off in the middle of a game. Like, the refs are like, timeout. Okay. Balls at the 8, boom. I get dropped off in the golf cart. They drive away, resume play. And all of a sudden I'm like, okay, boom, like save. But it was the funniest thing. And then people are like, she's playing for other teams. And then my mom's like, well, yeah, she's the only goalie. So
Yeah. That's something that I went through too, playing for I was like able to play for a couple different age groups, and like I played for 3 different travel teams in one summer, 2 that were in the Evansville area and it was their first year, and 1 that was in Indy. And there was one tournament that they all went to, and I played like every game that tournament. Yeah. And it was funny because somebody was like, didn't you just guard me wearing a completely different uniform? I was like, I did do that. Now here I stand before you in red and white, different than black and yellow.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up. So I had to, when I got to like a recruiting age, had to register under like a completely different person. So I was like Ann Vallarelli at one point, which Ann is my middle name. I was Ann Uberly, which is Uberly's my mom's maiden name. I was Rachel Uberly at a point. So there was like all these different goalies, and it was funny. I was like, Mom, I don't know if this is like a canned recruiting message. And Anne and Rachel would get the same exact message. And I was like, okay. But my mom's like, the running joke was like, oh, Anne got a recruiting message, so you must have played better in that game than when you were Rachel. I'm like, oh my God, Mom.
Whose save percentage is better, Rachel or Anne?
I have no idea. Well, I mean, now it's just me. So
yeah, now it's just one.
I want to go with the Rachel, but
Rachel was a real physical goalie and played the finesse game.
Yeah, that Anne girl, her cheese. Kind of
pretty
weird.
great. Yeah.
So would you say you have like a memory that like sticks out to you from like your high school youth lacrosse days?
I don't know. There's so many. I would probably say, I don't know. So club, having so many friends from different places, going to a small private school, you just knew like I graduated with 63 other girls in my class. So it was very, very small compared to people that go to giant high schools. My senior year, when I was at Holy Child, we played GA, which was our Greenwich Academy biggest rival. And we lost 10-8, never came close to them ever. And I had 26 saves in that game. And so the first half, I let it, but here's where it's weird. So I let in 8 goals and it was really tough. And there's like, no, not fabulous defense. I mean, girls tried, but it was 8-1 the first like 10 minutes in. And then we ended halftime. I think it was 9-5. And then we came that close. So I was like, okay. So it was very interesting. And like, I just remember I watched my dad walk down the stairs and my mom, and he just stares at the scoreboard like, oh my God, it's, and I could see his face too. And he's like, it's 8-1, 8-0. And all of a sudden, boom, like that. I'm like, okay, here we go. Like, and something just clicked, and, I don't know what it was, but that's probably one of my, like, bigger memories. I mean, the sad ones, like it was the first time that we made our run in states. And, we ended up losing. So that was tough. But when I played there, it was like the first time that we ever got into playoffs, or we hosted playoffs and stuff like that. So I think that was a really cool thing to be a part of Holy Child changing its landscape of especially lacrosse. And I was one of the few, at least in the 2000, like when they started really keeping track of it. My mom and my aunt went there, and there were there were girls that played in college and all these things too. And but when they like really kept track of it, there was somebody that went and played basketball at Davidson, and now she plays European basketball. But I was one of the first people to play a D1 sport that they were like really keeping track of recently, I guess is the way to say it.
Yeah.
Cool.
That is really cool.
Mm-hmm. That reminded me, like, I have a very similar memory. I mean, I wasn't a goalie, but we had this one team that always just destroyed us in my high school, and their name was Wando, and they would just wreck us every single year. But my senior year, like, we had scrimmaged them in preseason, and in the scrimmage I scored a hat trick, and like normally like we would barely score like 2 or 3 goals against them. And so I was like, whoa, like something's up here. Like we might be good this year. And then they came and we played them on a Saturday at home. And we were up like almost the whole game. And then they finally like came back and beat us by like 3 or 4. But like that's one of my favorite memories because like they used to beat us by like 20. But then like it showed how much we improved. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And going back to that game you were talking about where you kind of flip the switch, I don't think athletes get enough recognition for being the ones that make those changes where they just put the team on their back and they're like, no, I'm going off now. Because it's always like, what are the coaches going to make adjustments at halftime? And it's like, no, I think the athletes are the ones that have to do it. So I don't think the athletes get enough credit, and especially to do it in the middle of the game, or not the middle, but like while you're playing the game, you're just like, nah, I'm gonna become a brick wall now.
Well, I was just completely mortified that there was like 8 or 9 goals that they scored in the first 10 minutes. And I'm like, Houston, we have a problem here. And I used to watch this was, I mean, I was in high school back when, like, you know, Galloway was at Syracuse. So for me, I was like, okay, channel your inner John Galloway and just go all out. And I just remember like he dove like the day before, 2 days before when he played in a game, he like dove for a ground ball and like had skid marks like all on his sides. I mean, some girl missed a shot and I just leaped and I dove and everybody's like, what are you doing? And I got it. And I ended up getting the ball. And I mean, my dad has like pictures of all of it and stuff. It's really funny. But it was like I was so in the zone, I apparently stuck my tongue out at one kid. I was like, I don't remember doing that. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that going into a zone like that is really fun as an athlete. I've only had that one time. I described it previously. It is the way I got recruited, but yeah.
Kind of like black out in a sense. Like you just like
yeah.
It's just instinct takes over. Yeah. And it's so much fun to have one of those where you're not even thinking, and at the end of the play you're like, I did everything perfectly. And I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just doing it.
Yeah. So moving on now, you went to UMass, and we all know that's a really good school, both like academically and lacrosse wise. But give us a little bit more insight into what your college experience was like there, both on the field and like entirely at the campus.
Sure. Yeah. So I committed, I guess I'll like take it back a little bit. So I committed, I think it was like August 18th, give or take, like 16th, 18th, around then, going into my senior year in high school. So very, very late. Angela ended up making the change. She was the UConn head coach for 2 years and then ended up becoming the UMass head coach. And so she was talking to me when she was at UConn, and then just kind of made that transition over at UMass, which was really cool. So my experience got on and off. So I guess I'll go back a little further too, just because there's a little bit more like backstory to it. So my mom signed me up for camp. She's very good at like finding stuff out, right? As you know, she was like, oh, hey, so, you know, so-and-so, like, you know, Marissa from basketball. All right. So she's here, you know, let me type in Westchester Elite, boom, see what comes up. Oh, who do I need to contact? Like, my mom's very good at finding stuff. So she researched and found, she was like, okay, if Rachel really wants to be a goalie, she's got to go to camps. Like, she's like, do you really want to do this? And, you know, my mom's the kind of person like, okay, if you're going to do it, you're going to get better, and we're going to help, you know, provide what you need to be able to do those things. So my mom searched, found Northwestern lacrosse camps because they had a goalie school and everything like that at them. And so my mom's like, hey, so this coach has won like 5 national championships. Is that good? And I was like, yeah.
No.
And my dad's like, oh my God, that's phenomenal. Like,
no,
so
it's not good.
It's average.
Yeah, no, right.
Yeah.
So
I mean, most coaches win like 10, so it's halfway there.
Right. So, and at that, I met some of the UMass girls. And so one of the goalies on staff went to UMass, and she was talking about how much she loved the sport management program. And what is that? That is perfect for me. I was like, this is it. That's it. And I was like, I'm going to UMass. Right. And meanwhile, never saw the campus, never was there. I'm like, I have zero clue as to what it looks like. In my mind, I was like, I pray to God that it looks pretty, or I'm literally, I mean, it's not just like the looks of it, but I was like, I pray to God I like it, or this is just mortifying. Because the coach at the time, Alexis Ventanos, and she was like, okay, stay tuned, like that kind of stuff, which was really cool. And then, you know, fast forward the process, went to all those camps and stuff, interacted with all the girls at UMass, and absolutely loved it. So yeah, my experience at UMass, I loved it. I wasn't like the big party person. I joke I was the Uber before Uber really existed. So I guess I kind of lost a financial and business venture in that sense. But, you know, loved the girls I played with. They went all out. They played with so much heart. And, you know, every time we stepped on the field, you know, we would battle together.
So what do you I guess you don't seem superstitious, but do you have any pregame, you know, meal of choice or anything you have to do before a game, like one sock over the other or taping your stick, things like that?
So I used to be really superstitious. I had a journal I'd write in before games. Eye black went on a certain way. Every year it would evolve. I think I have all that stuff on my social media. You can go search. I used to put eye black on my eyelids. Like that was senior year. I was very superstitious with that stuff. Fast forward to now, playing box and driving all over the place. I'll go up to Boston and I'll play like a 9 or 10 o'clock game. And if I get stuck in traffic, I have 10 minutes to get on gear that takes really, in actuality, probably more than that. So I have no time to really be superstitious. I just like throw out all my stuff and I'm like, okay, did I tape like, the toes down? Cause I mean, if you don't tape like part of the like the leg pads down onto your feet, you could end up with broken toes. So obviously don't want that. So it's got me to not be superstitious, but I used to be very, very, to the point where it was like a little bit too much and people are like, oh God, leave Rachel alone. Like just here's her bubble, like let her be. That was seriously. And then after games, I mean, people would be leaving the tailgate and my mom's like, where are you? Like, come on, let's go. Like you played well, get out of the locker room. And I'm like, I let in 2 goals, Mom, I need my time.
I think I was too lazy to have superstitions. Like I'd roll up to the field, I'd just make sure I got a good stretch in, and then I was ready to go hit the line drills. But it was I think I was too lazy to have a superstition. Like I didn't care which sock I put on first, as long as they were both facing up. Like,
no, I've always been way superstitious. Have to wear the same headband in a game, and if I do bad when I'm wearing that headband, I'll switch it and I'll never wear that headband in a game again.
Oh man, you don't give it another try. It's one and done.
I mean, sometimes if I like lose a headband and like I can't find any others, I'll wear that headband again. But like, I try not to. Or if I have like a long streak where it's like, man, I wore that headband for like 3 games and I kind of sucked in all of them, I'm gonna switch it up.
But if it's the only one, she holds it up and gives it a stern talking to. Listen, you failed me once. You better not fail me again.
So usually we have questions that like lead to a guest telling us more about their accomplishments. But if we were to ask you a question about all of yours, we'd literally be here all day. So to save some time, why don't you run down your list of achievements for us if you can? Just
like all the places you've played and stuff like that.
Like your top tier.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, I was on the U.S. U19 team in 2010 to 2011. And I've been in the system due to like tryouts and stuff like that for the past 10 years, which makes me feel really old. So fingers crossed for this year. I'm really hoping I get that invite to tryouts. I haven't openly talked about it, but here we are. I guess I'm doing the thing. So that's the goal. I don't know how familiar you are with Dylan Ward, but long story short, my goal for the rest of my career is to be on the U.S. team for field and for box as a goalie. So I'd be like the U.S. and female version of Dylan Ward, which it's funny. He actually dates one of my old teammates. So I don't know if that's like creepy that I know that information. I'm not sure, but that's not my accomplishment. So obviously I'm getting sidetracked. I hold NCAA school and conference records at UMass, which is pretty cool. I don't know. I hate talking about myself, so it just makes me a little awkward, right? But it's one of those things. So it's just I don't know. It's weird. I got to get over it.
It is weird, and that's why. I mean, I hate to put you on the spot, but I was reading all of your accomplishments. I read the run sheets, and I was literally like, honestly, if I was to read all these out. Number one, the listener would just lose track, and number two, like it would take too long. So we just wanted to hear what you really thought were your biggest personal achievements. And those are cool. Like holding records is definitely that's an achievement.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great, and I love it, and I put in so much work at UMass and before and after and everything, and I think like playing pro too was a huge accomplishment of mine. That was something I always wanted to do, even before it was a thing. Because after I stopped playing in college, it like for that first year it was tough. But then I got invited to play with New York Athletic Club, which is basically a pro team before there was pro. They pay for travel, all expenses, all that kind of stuff, and then you go play. So that's really it's a lot of fun. We go to Placid. We've gone to Ocean City. We'll scrimmage teams. Last fall, we beat Florida like 5-3. We beat Stony Brook. So there was like things like that where we're like, okay, it's a bunch of girls from like Georgetown, there's me at UMass, there's a bunch of like Ivy League people. And then I'm like, hey, I'm Rachel. I did not go to an Ivy League, or I did not go to Northwestern. Right. But here I am. I'm like, here we are. So, which I think is funny. Again, not one of my accomplishments. I'm losing track, but, you know, that's like the field stuff for box, being one of the first woman to be invited to the NLL Elite Combine was really, really special. And they came and filmed a day in the life, which is probably where I was like, okay, we got to like deep clean, right? That was like my mom's big thing. Oh my God, we got to clean the house. Are they coming in the house? All right. And, you know, I was like, okay, if this is like a big publicity thing, I was like, I don't, you know, really want to be a part of it. And they're like, no, we want to showcase it because you deserve, like, you earned your spot here. Because my big thing is, like, I don't want to be the token female. And I feel like that's such a coined phrase now for any like woman trying to break into men's sports or anything like that. But
same with glass
for me,
ceiling.
I'm like, and yeah, well, I know. And that's, I'm like, oh, great. I say that too. Right. So it's,
yeah, you shattered it.
right. You know, so that's a big accomplishment for me. Being invited to try out for the Riptide last year, which for those of you that don't know, it's the NLL team that's out of Long Island. And Reggie Thorpe was the head coach and GM last year. He's no longer there though, but anyway, it was an amazing experience. And, you know, so for me, it's just kind of keep trying to continue to play at the highest level that I can for as long as I can. But, you know, a lot of that stuff, it's like, it's great on paper, and it takes up a lot of space and a lot of time for people to talk about it or things like that. And, you know, I don't know. I tend to think I'm very humble, which, you know, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I don't know. But, you know, for me, it's about the legacy that I leave for other people. So it's like, it's great that I've done all these things. I love to play, don't get me wrong. So for me, I'm like, yes, I want to be the first, you know, person to do this, or I want to play. Like, I want to be a starting goalie, you know, in the NLL. You know, step one is obviously, you know, I'm a free agent, getting off that free agent board, signing with the team, moving on in that direction. Right. You know, but for me, it's just equally as important to make sure I'm not the last, right? If I do all these things and I don't help people get there, and I don't have that come along mentality or be able to inspire somebody, then to me, it's like, okay, great. You know, in a little while, people will be like, who's that Rachel person again? All right. So, you know, for me, it's about how can I help other people, right? And that, whether that's through, you know, I'm the girls director for Team 91 Tri-State, which, if you've heard of 91, right? So like Joey Spallina plays for 91. So 91 has like a lot of different branches. So we're like the Tri-State, Westchester County, Jersey, Connecticut, like that kind of area. You know, whether it's through that, whether it's through my own business, RV Lacrosse, sorry, I'm like plugging stuff away in here. Right. To me, it's like, okay, if I'm doing it through that, I'm doing it through playing, you know, then that's what matters. Right. I may never, which, you know, sucks to say, like, I may not be asked to, you know, try out for the US team. You know, which I want to, but it might not happen. I may never make an NLL roster. It's just the reality, right? People are like, hey, you're short. I mean, guys are like, what, the shortest goalie in the NLL right now is 5'11". I'm 5'4" and 3/4 of an inch. I think shorter is better. I don't know. The goals are short. I think it works. I'm small and quick and mighty, but you know, you know, it is what it is. I may not, I may, doesn't mean I'm not going to work towards it. But if I don't inspire other people behind me to do it, then it's kind of all for naught in a way. Although, again, I love to play. So for me, I'm enjoying every second of it, but
yeah, it's just all an added
you know,
benefit.
if I don't help. Yeah. So that's the big thing for me, is like, you know, can I inspire other people to achieve their dreams too? Right. Like, I've coached girls at the D1 level that want to go and be a nurse, and I can't help you. Maybe I could read your flashcards and help you study. But other than that, I mean, I don't know, my handshake, I have too much coffee. I can't, there's no way that that's like a career for me. Right. But if I can inspire you to be the best you, then, you know, I've done my job. And being able to coach at so many different levels, collegiately, club, my own stuff, and then through playing, like, if I can inspire you at all those levels, then, you know, I've done my job, at least that I consider anyway. amongst like paperwork and other things too that obviously my bosses tell me to do, right? Like that stuff's important.
Yeah.
And then I'm my own boss, so I can do what I want with my own business pretty much.
That's why we started this. We want to be our own bosses.
Yeah.
But
Gotcha.
yeah. So nobody besides like the Kardashians wants to be known just for being known. So you're known for your accomplishments, and that in and of itself is another one. And so that's cool. And you're definitely a humble person. No part of that seemed like, hey, I'm pretty great, aren't I? You know, it was all just like things that you want people to know you for that are good things. And yeah, so but you've played all forms of the game. So what is your favorite and why? For me, I love box. Even though I grew up a field player, I only started playing box like 2 years ago. I love it. And it's funny when you were talking about putting on all the goalie gear, it does take about 25 minutes. Like I'll try to help my friends who are the goalies there get into all their gear. And it's like, man, how do you have more to put on? I thought we just fully encased you. Are you defusing a bomb? What is going on?
I know, right? Oh my, the first time I played, it was really funny. I worked with, like the first time I put on my own gear, I worked with Ginny Capuccioni, who was the first woman to play in the NLL. And so obviously I got big shoes to fill in that regard. And so I'm working with her at men's U20 US like tryouts. And I was like, okay, I'm aged out. You all know that, right? And they're like, yeah, just come down. And I had no idea how to put my stuff on, but I got it on. I was like, okay. And she just takes one look at it. She's like, did this just come out of the box yesterday? And I was like, yeah, why? And she's like, oh my God. She's like, okay, you got to squirt water on it. You got to do this, whatever. So she's like, put the uppers on. So I put on the uppers. I have like the legs on and, you know, whatever. And I just take one look at her and I'm holding my jersey. And I was like, how do I get it on? I can't move my arms. And it was the most mortifying thing because there were like 16-year-old boys there and their dads put it on for me. And I was like, I've hit my low. I've hit the lowest of lows here. And I was just like, okay, don't be mortified. Like, just, it is what it is. And the dad was like, it's okay. And I'm like, oh, no, you're making it worse. He's like, how old are you? I was like, don't ask. I'm like, nope, we're not asking. And I was 23, 24 at the time. I was like, oh my God, this is mortifying. And the kids are like, she can't even put on her gear. Like, why is she here? And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this is mortifying.
And then you shut them down.
No, it takes a while. I'm happy now that I have it down to a science where if I get stuck in traffic and I'm late for the game, they'll wait for me, which I think is super, super nice, going up and playing in the Boston Box League. And I'll put on my stuff. I'll get it out of the car, sprint like up the stairs. I'll get all my stuff on in 2 minutes. And they're literally surprised. They're like, oh, we carved out 10 more minutes for you. And one of the guys is like, it's Rachel. She flies. Like, here we are.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys, I'm here. Let's go. And they're like, oh my God, it's 10 o'clock at night, Rachel. I'm like, I'm ready. I had like 3 coffees on the way. And I'm like, let's do it. And then I get home at like 4 o'clock in the morning the next day from playing. But anyway, I got sidetracked. So as you can tell, I'm very enthusiastic about box. What I like about it, I love field, right? And I think women's field, I played in college before the shot clock. So again, I'm aging myself here, but with New York Athletic Club, I get to play with the shot clock, which is really cool. So I've experienced all that kind of stuff. I think I love box just because it's super fast and it's just fun. Like you have guys that I've played with people that, you know, they've been on NFL practice rosters and stuff like that. He was, you know, and his whole thing, you know, he's 6'11". I'd botch his last name or I'd say it. And, you know, he played in the NFL and he played lacrosse in high school and he's like, hell, I'm going to give it another try. And he played and he did phenomenal. And I love that you can pull athletes from different sports, right? You look at Wayne Gretzky, he played box and that was something that helped him with being a better hockey player. You know, you see like the Shanahan brothers, right? Box and, you know, they played box and they played hockey. You know, one professionally at the box level, one professionally in the NHL, right? Which I just think is so cool. So you get all these different kinds of athletes for box. And you just like shove a bunch of different sports together. And I don't know, I love it. And I think there's a part of it that I like really love about proving myself. And I look back to like the game when I was at, you know, playing against GA or even US tryouts for U19. People are like, who the hell is this kid? Like I love being able to prove myself. And if people doubt me, I think it's like that extra edge, which, I don't know, maybe this is where I don't sound humble. But I literally, I'm like, bring it on. And that's just kind of my mentality. So some people are like, oh, look at the girl. And then I was like, yeah, have fun. And they're like, oh my God, you're good. And I was like, yeah, why wouldn't I? Yeah, why would I be here if I
was
wasn't?
not
Like,
good? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you'd be
Or
surprised if you
like,
came and watched our box league. There are some people who are there, and they are not good.
It's because we're in the South.
but you know what though? It's fun. I think it's fun. Like box, because you can be so physical, and maybe this is what like you can kind of hide it a little more.
Yeah.
Like
I love it.
field, the ball, like right field. If the ball's constantly going out of bounds, it's slow and it can be boring, right? Which is why I think like youth, smaller fields, smaller goals, like that kind of environment works really well, because then they build confidence, right? And they're having fun and they want to come back. But same thing with box. Like you can take all of people that haven't played in 5 years and they can go play. And yeah, if you miss a shot, guess what? It's sailing off the boards and then it's going to come right back to you.
You just gotta get it.
Right. And then you get it. And I just think it constantly is moving, and it makes it a little more enjoyable in that sense. But when I played men's field at one point, the guys like, it was going into my sophomore year at UMass. And so I played men's field, Sound Shore League, by me in Westchester County, and a bunch of the guys, they were trying to find out who the girl was, because they're like, oh, there's a girl's goalie here. Like for some reason, it was like public knowledge. I'm like, dear God, like why are we sharing this information? And they were trying to figure out who it was. There was 3 goalies there, me and 2 other guys. And I go in, and in the beginning I was like, okay, why are sticks allowed in the crease? Like I just made the save. I'm like, I have 4 seconds. And they're like, no, it's from when you clamp. You got to clamp on the ball. And I was like, oh, that's why they're reaching into the crease. Okay, because I didn't control the rebound, right? And so after that, like that first like 30 seconds, I'm like, okay, I feel confident. It's fine. I can come out and I can deck people. Like this is great. This works for me. It's wonderful. And at the end of the game, they were trying to find out who the girl was. And the poor kid that went in after me, they're like, he sucked. He's the girl. And I was like, oh man. And so we're like doing handshake lines at the end. And I literally just like, I went up and I was like, hi, I'm the girl. And they're like, wait, what? But you're good. And I was like, yeah, no, I know. I'm like, sorry to disappoint you, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, it's just that the people, for the most part with box are very encouraging, and they're very, not like, oh, you got it, Rachel, in like a sarcastic way, but they think it's awesome. Like they don't see any issue, right? For the most part with, oh, hey, there's a chick playing with me. They're like, no, Rachel's good. And I'm happy to have her as my goalie. And that's who I want. And that's, it's just about like sticking with those people that believe in you and everything. And I know I'm getting sidetracked, but I think that's why I like box so much, is it's so supportive, and I love field, but I think the environment and the family aspect of box is like, you play with one team and then you're all buddies for forever. And the group text is like still going on. I mean, there's a group me, I played in Vegas in January, and the group chat, like, is still going on. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like this, it's stuff like that, where people are just more, like involved and stuff. So I don't know, long-winded answer, probably more than you needed, but and probably more than people wanted to hear.
No, that's okay. But what you were saying about box being more physical, I definitely love that. And then also my favorite thing about box is the shorter like distances, because you might not know this if you've not listened before, I am 6'6". So I love the fact that my reach really carries me in box. And then also you're allowed to like fight through picks, and when you pick someone, you're allowed to use your stick and stuff like that. Like, I just love all the little chippy parts of it that remind me of hockey. Even though I can't skate, I never played hockey, but like watching hockey, it reminds me of that. And then you also have the talent of, like breakaway goals and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, like being like hockey. Yeah.
Yeah, and just how physical it is. I love it. Like, I really love it. It's one of my favorite sports, I think, because I say it's different from field, because it really is, especially men's field, like where you have the pole, because I was a defenseman, so taking the pole away and giving me a short stick meant position defense was far more important. And then also ground balls were different. and fighting somebody on the wall for a ball is way different than, you know, chasing it to the end line and then picking up a fresh one and running back in. Like, you have to battle. And it's a lot of fun, and it's the games within the
Yeah.
games too, like the cuts and, you know, the pick and rolls and stuff like that just happen because of the short field and the close distance and proximity. And then I've always been terrible at breakaway shots, but I've got a little range. So, you know, but I'm so bad at it. And being a goalie, like, how do y'all always stuff me, man? I know you've never played me in particular, but like, they bait so well, and then, you know, like, all that armor to shoot around is very difficult. I'm just not good at it. But anyways, what was your first men's practice like?
Okay, so men's box, probably. So it ended up being that the U.S. U20 session. I think the biggest change is honestly just kind of my mentality of going into it. And, you know, I think going in, I was like, okay, well, obviously I'm the only girl there, and everything is so it's the same, right? You go up and you play women's box in Canada, and it's the same. I think that's the easiest way to describe it, right? But it's the same. And same thing with being a goalie. Like, there's no, okay, well, in women's field, you have 10 seconds to clear the ball, and in men's, you have 4. And it's when you clamp down on it versus when you make the save, right? So all these things, like, there wasn't any differentiation. So I think for me, just kind of going in and getting out of my own head and being like, I belong here. I was asked to be here. There's a reason why I'm here, and going and doing it that way. So I think, you know, and after that, I was invited to play in the Boston Box League for the summer. And then I earned my keep in the summer to play in the winter as well. And just keep, you know, every time going and playing, improving, just those kinds of things. But, you know, now I'm just considered like, oh, Rachel's here. Like, it's no different. It's not like, oh, there's a girl. It's like, no, that's Rachel. Like, you know, there's no difference. And I think, you know, looking at like the combines and stuff like that, I was nervous beforehand. And at the end of the day, I was like, I'm here for a reason. I'm here to do my job just like everybody else. And, you know, and that's that. And I'm going to play the best that I can. And, you know, they make a decision, you know, however, you know, don't, whatever, I earned my spot to be here. And now I just have to work with what I've got here and move on. So, you know, that's just kind of the way I operate it. I'm kind of like a little mental with that stuff. If you haven't noticed, right? I'm like, okay, here's this. I like plan it out. I'm like, all right, this is a locker room. This is where I am. This is the deal. And once I know it, and I'm like, okay, perfect. You know, and then I feel comfortable, and then I envision what it'll look like. So like the combine in Philly, I played in a tournament there at the the Philadelphia Wings training center. So I knew what it looked like. I'd been in the locker rooms. I knew what the parking lot was, like all these things. I'm like, I could envision myself getting there, getting my stuff on. I knew the place. I knew what the lighting was. I knew the color of the walls. I knew all that stuff, and I felt more confident. So that was probably a little bit more than anyone was looking for on that end, but
That's okay.
Yeah. So kind of shifting now from box to like the women's game a little bit. What was your experience playing professional women's lacrosse like?
it was great. I loved being able to play with different people. It kind of felt like, in a way, like club, but on a bigger scale. Right. I mean, it's no, you know, it's no secret. We didn't have a lot of practices, if any. We would show up to games and play. You know, we met each other. I remember the first season I was in the UWLX, that is now defunct, just like the pro women's league, the WPL, the other pro women's league. We met everybody like that day, the first day, a couple hours before the game. We got our gear and then we played. You know, so it felt more like club lacrosse, but with extremely talented professional level players. So, which I'm not dissing the experience or anything like that. It was just, it was different. And, you know, I look at it, and it wasn't college. And, you know, so I think my biggest thing with it was I was expecting it to be like a game, you know, getting ready for UMass, and it wasn't. And that was probably more on me than anybody else. just because I was so set in my routines and, okay, it's going to be like this and all these things. And then it wasn't. And, I was like, wait, what's happening? Which, yeah, so my first game wasn't the world's greatest, but after that I got comfortable and I felt great. So it was really an awesome experience being able to play women's field. Unfortunately, the other thing too, like going off of it a little bit to box, is that there's so many more opportunities for guys to go play that, I think, like I look at, how I kind of like got into box, and I started loving it when I was 16, but there are more opportunities to go play box. You could play in New York City, you could do all these things. And then there's just women's field on Long Island, for ULACs. And that's really it. And, for men's box, there's the IBLA, you could go play up in Canada. Like there's so many opportunities. Obviously you have to be good enough to get those opportunities, but even just pickup or things like that, guys are more naturally inclined to be like, okay, let's go and do this. And then,
let's make a league.
Whatever. Yeah. And women's just, it doesn't happen. So we got to figure out a way to get more people on board at all levels. And I'm not dissing anybody by that. It's just like, just trying to figure something out. Like how can we get more people to play, cause I look at people like, Espo, myself, even like, okay, like Kylie, is on US, but okay, other than that, where's she playing? Like, now there's that pause. And you have a bunch of really amazing players that it's like, we look forward to playing in our alumni games, Lake Placid, which is awesome. Right. And there's Ocean City, if you want to make that drive down there, or depending on if you live right there, it's really easy. You can go play out west as well. There's some opportunities. But other than that, that's, those are really it. And there's more opportunities for guys. And, how do we change that? And it's like, same thing with youth and building. You got to do it, okay, more recreational level, and then build it up to scale. So people feel like, yeah, I can go play, pro or things like that. But right now there's not much, and that's got to change. So,
well, building off of that,
got very
sorry, you can finish.
No, that's good. I got very preachy on that one. Sorry.
Well, building off of that, what do you think needs to happen to bring professional women's lacrosse back, and how can we help it get there as fans? I mean, I'm sure there's got to be monetary. Obviously, people need money to fund a league, so we know that. But what do you think outside of like a monetary gain do you think needs to happen?
Oh, I don't know. I got a lot of ideas, but I think probably more regionalized play. Travel is probably a big deal, but you have players that are all over, and some are college coaches, some are club directors, some are nurses. When I played for the Baltimore Ride, we had nurses on our team, and they literally run onto the field in their scrubs and find the bathroom, change, and then come out onto the field. And they're like, okay, you're going in as midi. Like that was stuff that happened. So I think first and foremost, it's building a schedule that understands that, right? Guys will, like the NLL is a Thursday to Sunday commitment, right? Same thing kind of with the MLL. PLL is a little bit, well, obviously this year with COVID, everybody's kind of, it's a little bit out of whack, but, you have all those weekends that the guys are traveling all over the place. And, I don't know, there's a lot behind that, but kind of going off of like, bosses are okay, oh, hey, I play, a men's pro lacrosse, or I play pro lacrosse. I got to be off Thursday to Sundays. Right. So, guys knowing that they can take that professional career, have more flexible jobs where, for women, and again, I don't know this because I just do lacrosse all the time. So I consider myself pretty flexible in that sense. Like, can you take off for a Thursday to Sunday? Is that realistic? I don't know. So it just seems to be like finding that sustainable model, right? The UWLX did it one way. WPLL kind of, morphed it and did it another way. But it's just, I think it's finding, something that sticks and that works. And that's, backed financially. I don't know. I'm not the person that has all the answers. I brainstorm and I think about it, but I don't know. I don't think that there's one cure all. And
Yeah, I don't either, but I think your regional idea definitely would help take care of a lot of travel costs and hotel costs and food and stuff. Well, I think we'll move on to segments now. And we'll talk about, we'll do our first one is the poke and lift. And that's your favorite defensive player. It can be men's or women's, but why also?
Ooh. Well, okay, so I've played with so many amazing defenders. I guess I'll do one for box, and I'll do technically two for field since they're twins. So when I played at UMass, the Farnham twins were such lockdown defenders. And again, this isn't a slight to any of my other UMass teammates or anybody else. There's so many really good defenders, whether it's US or whatever. Like Alice Mercer is really, really good. Playing with her at US tryouts, stuff like that. But playing consistently, long period of time, I would say the Farnham twins. They just obviously as twins, they knew like where they were going at all times. So that was really awesome. So I would go with the two of them for field for women's, and then box. There are a lot of really good defenders that I've played with, but somebody for like on the floor and off the floor kind of reasons too. I'd give a shout out to CJ Fleming. He just the two of us. He used to be on. He's been like on and off some NLL practice roster or not practice rosters, like actual rosters. Sorry. I do know what I'm talking about, I promise. Right. He's played at that pro level. He's a free agent now. He's trying to get on a team too. And, he's somebody that, like, he helped me prep for the combines, and the two of us, like, we continue to work together and everything like that. So I'd give him a shout out. Again, it's hard for me to be like specific people, because then I feel like I'm leaving out so many other awesome people as well. All right. But I would go with the Farnhams and then CJ.
Well, if anybody gets mad at you, just say, John Sullivan forced me to do it, and they'll say, who? And then you, in that time, run away.
So our next segment is the box score, which is where you highlight your favorite offensive player of all time.
Oof. Oh, that's tough. I've played with so many people, like Kayla Trainer before she was like the Kayla Trainer that everybody knows, right? When we were on U19. I've done like clinics with Kylie, so she's amazing. I don't, again.
There's so many.
John, you guys are killing me with like with choosing one.
Well, again, you can blame us.
Okay. I don't know, actually. My favorite. So I grew up watching UMass, and then I got really into Northwestern, obviously, like with their championship runs and going to camp and stuff like that. So I guess I would probably say like I loved like Katrina Dowd and how she plays. I don't know if she's my favorite per se, but I think like I like the way Danielle Spencer played and still plays. So I'd probably go with her. I know that's probably the weirdest answer, but I don't know. Well, see, now I don't know. There's like so many really good people, and then you go back and it's like, Kelly Amonte was really good. You got like
it's okay.
I don't know. There's too many. There's too many. That's a hard question. You can't do that.
You would be a terrible person to go to dinner with.
That's so mean.
I'm just saying, like, you would be like, oh, but I want this, but I want that, but I want this, but I want that.
Don't insult our guests,
I didn't
John.
mean like I'm sure you would be a very fun conversationalist, but when the ordering happened, you'd be like, what about this and that? And I want all these things combined. Okay, so now we'll do the penalty box. What's your worst take? Like, people give you crap for it.
I talk too much.
Yeah.
I got run of the mouth disease. That's what my mom calls it. So I talk too much. I have like, I go on too long. I don't know. I like to think it's entertaining, but I guess when you're around it all the time, it's probably not. So
it makes for a good interview.
Yeah, it makes for a good podcast.
Yeah.
So now I think we're just going to move on to some questions about you in general, just to kind of get to know you better. What are some hobbies you have outside of the sport of lacrosse?
So obviously I do a ton of lacrosse stuff, club, coaching, playing, personal. On the side, I'm very big into art, which I don't know if you'd like get that vibe at all. But I love photography. So that's kind of my like side project. Yeah. So landscapes, kind of gotten into some sports stuff, a little bit, and portraiture, but not like sit down portraits, like dinner, taking pictures of people, that kind of stuff. But yeah, landscapes are my jam. So that's like my favorite thing. When I lived out in California, I was 45 minutes from Yosemite National Park. So I would just go for sunrises, sunsets, that kind of stuff, take pictures. My mom was like, "Oh my God, you're going to be eaten by a bear."
Classic mom.
Oh, I know. Love her to death. Yes, she, so that was like my thing. I would go always take pictures, that kind of stuff. I love it. Haven't done it as much as I want to, with everything, but it's like pretty much always with me. Yeah. So I don't know. I was thinking about getting a drone to like really go into it more, but that's probably a little too much. I don't know.
No,
if that's necessary.
Let me tell you, we got one, and because we have some big plans in the works. Stay tuned, but
some fun content.
Yeah, some fun content coming. But we picked one up off of Facebook Marketplace, very cheap comparatively, obviously, and it takes really good video, really good pictures, and it's so easy to fly. You should get one. It really does. It changes the whole photography, videography game for you, because you can get way above things and take cool pictures of them. Like right above your house, you never realize how cool the top of your house looks. It really does look tight though. Okay, what is your favorite?
I didn't.
What is your favorite TV show of all time?
Yeah, see, now I go back to the bad dinner guest kind of a thing, like you were saying before. So currently, I really like Lucifer. That one's really good. I like NCIS. Supernatural is really good. I don't know, the like, favorite of all time. I mean, when I was younger, I liked Scooby Doo, Recess, like Rocky and Bullwinkle. I don't know. I'm like, I can't remember if there's like other stuff, Rocket Power. I don't know, but it depends on like where we're going with it. But
that's true. There's a lot of genres, but you know, if there's just one that you
Criminal
throw
Minds.
I like your vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lucifer, Criminal Minds.
Right. Criminal Minds. If I used to do this when I was doing like recruiting, or if I was like answering emails and doing all this, I would throw on Friday Night Lights, and it would be like the third time I'd watch it, and then just hearing that background noise in the back, and I'm like, boom, okay, and I'd crush work. But that's it. I don't know. I can't like choose one thing. Again, bad dinner guest. You're right.
No,
there we go.
Okay.
Maybe that's my problem.
That'll be the name of the episode. Bad dinner guest. But so you kind of touched on it earlier, but when it's all, it's all said and done, what do you want your legacy to be?
Ooh. Yep. Again, indecisiveness. I don't know. I want to be known for somebody that gave it all she had, and loved the game, gave back, to the game, for the game, to other people. That, if I do become one of the first women to play in the NLL, or anything like that, to be able to, for people to know that's not the end, right? It shouldn't stop after me. Other people should be able to go and do it too. So if I can, break the proverbial glass ceiling, so to speak, right, and help others, I think that's that would be my legacy, is helping others reach their potential and go where they want to go with life. So kind of deep, but
yeah. And lacrosse is one of those sports that you can actually like really do that in. I think there was a TV show about a women's pitcher who went to the MLB like 3 years ago, and it just, I don't know.
Or maybe like a minor. I don't remember hearing about that. I don't know.
No, she wasn't like, it wasn't real. It was, the premise was
like,
yeah.
I feel like I would have heard about that.
Yeah, it was like a, but look, being a lacrosse goalie, those skill sets transfer more so than like a woman pitcher pitching in the major leagues. Like that one was just out of left field. They should have made it a lacrosse goalie. That one would have been a good show. All right. Well, do you have any social medias, charities? I mean, you have a lot of different brands to plug here. What do you go ahead and plug yourself and all your brands and your social medias and things like that?
Sure. So, My own business is rvlacrosse.com. Their website is getting not just a facelift, but really like a, it's completely getting redone. But that'll be updated soon. So it's not really mobile responsive. So be kind, please, when you go on it. Twitter and Instagram are ravslax26, RAVSLAX26. Facebook is RV Lacrosse LLC, so you can search it there. Trying to think of other things. 91 is at 91 Tri-State. Pretty self-explanatory with that one. And then I'm sponsored by String King as well, so gotta throw them some love there. I don't know. I think that's kind of it, really. Charities, I'm big on like Friends of Jacqueline or Headstrong, stuff like that. So
we've not heard Friends of Jacqueline. What's that one?
So Jacqueline was she had cancer, and basically the Northwestern women's lacrosse team adopted her. And she would go out on the field. So if you see any like the pictures from like early to mid 2000s of them with a kid on the field, so that's her. And so Jacqueline wasn't really doing great, and I'm probably doing a terrible job of describing it. But she wasn't doing well, and the girls would call, send texts, letters, all this kind of stuff, and she got better. So it's just a really, really cool story. And so now there's a foundation that pairs kids with cancer to other colleges and stuff like that, so they can have that experience that Jacqueline had, which is really cool. So
that's great.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Thank you for sharing that one.
Well, you can follow me on Instagram at evans.cr2 and on Twitter at @theAnnEvans.
And you can follow me on Instagram at johnsullivan20. All right, well, I think that's going to wrap it up today. Thank you very much, as always, to our guest. And please don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That's really the one that advertisers look at the most, and we could use all the help we could get there. We can also be found on YouTube, where you can watch the video of the episode if you're a visual person. Please don't forget to follow us at Low to High Pod on Twitter and at Low to High Podcast on Instagram. And you can go to our website as well to place orders for stickers, or, look for the website. I think we post our episodes there as well. We do. Yeah. And as always, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Rachel, for coming on and spending this time with us. And thank you to the listener.